So this is the model I built to illustrate the value from the perspective of folks in the financial suite, the CFO's office, that Hub OEM can bring to an original equipment manufacturer. So if you're making OEM equipment and you have any parts that are purchased parts or parts that are imported, odds are you're holding some spare parts inventory, and that's obviously tying up working capital. And I know from my experience, a company that does maybe $5 or $6 million in new machines a year would not be unreasonable to say that they're holding anywhere in the neighborhood of $1 to $2 million in parts in their warehouse. And the real challenge with holding inventory for spare parts is you don't always know when your customers are going to need them. And so you've got to hold a certain volume to ensure against stock out, right? To what they call safety stock, that level of buffering to make sure when somebody calls, you have what they need. And the value that Hub OEM brings to the table is it enforces a degree of discipline in your customers by and not in any sort of punitive way, but just by prompting timely purchase of parts when they're due. You can have a little more insight into the customer's behavior and drive them to adhere better to a schedule. So when something needs to be replaced every 6 months, we can get them replacing it every 6 months instead of whenever it happens to break, which may be right at 6 months, but it may be at 8 months, and it's harder to plan around. So the beauty of what we're doing here is we can drive a lot of the variability out of your customer's purchasing schedule. And you can see just this example here illustrates if you had $100,000 in monthly demand, which for $1.2 million in parts sales a year, which is not an exorbitant amount, and a variance or a standard deviation of about $10,000 worth of parts every month, you get some pretty wild swings on the chart here, right, up and down. And so to buffer against that and ensure you have a service level of 99% or more, which means 99 out of 100 customers that call you have what they need, you've got to hold about $123,000 worth of parts. And this is a very, very simple model. It assumes that all parts are interchangeable, and it's just a very fluid pool of $100,000. In reality, one customer's parts may not overlap with another customer's parts, and so you need an even higher level of safety stock to buffer against shifting demand. Compare that to a similar level of demand, $100,000 a month, but we've managed to drive down the amount of variability to only $1,000 because we've now got the customers in a purchasing pattern that adheres to a stricter schedule and follows some more forecastability and predictability. We can drive $20,000 worth of safety stock requirements out and still have that same 99% service level. You see that here in the blue line. Now, the really exciting thing about this is if you look at this third option here, we're showing we can drive a further 20% in sales volume with this same level of $1,000 worth of deviation and still not hit that same safety stock requirement. So you could sell 20% more parts and still have a lower working capital requirement to manage your warehouse. So we think that's exciting. That's part of the value that we're looking to bring to the table with demand management through Hub OEM.